want to talk about Kanye West.
Oh, yeah, we've been talking about this a little bit.
Yeah, this has been really interesting to me. So I would love to get your thoughts on it initially first.
Well, I think I totally agree with you so we were talking about this. Oops, I keep pushing this. But we were talking about how, well, of course, if you don't know, Kanye West went on this tweeting rampage about being a free thinker, and I guess that's the general idea. That's the main idea of it. That it's sort of admitting that he's not so much a liberal person, or maybe he just has, I don't know, he would align more with people in conservative parts of politics.
Yeah.
And so he like tweeted at Donald Trump and things like that, where and Donald Trump said like, "Thanks so much, Kanye." Cool.
He said that.
Weird.
He said, "I love you, brother. You have dragon energy."
Dragon energy.
Dragon
that's it.
energy.
Yeah. I want some of that.
I do too.
I feel like I have it right now because I'm drinking coffee on an empty stomach. Just got back from this adrenaline rush of firing a machine at an explosive.
You made me focus on myself
hand.
just now, and I think that I am pretty fired up too. But but yeah, this whole thing was so. There's actually I was following this pretty closely because I'm a pretty I would say a centrist. Well, actually, I'm probably a left-leaning centrist.
Yeah.
But because I have some sort of right things that I like guns, for example, you have to be the straight ticket person now. Like, you know, I could list the a million things in which I'm a liberal and also being a gay person.
Yeah.
But because I like guns, I'm now this crazy.
It stretches you all the way to some other.
It's like, I have no choice.
This podcast could get us labeled on the
most certainly. Well, it was
SPLC site.
Well, all this stuff I kind of did by design, like these.
Yeah.
So in terms of having these conversations, so what was interesting was initially he was tweeting all this stuff about, you know, having a free mind, and if you're an artist, it was like all this kind of existential sort of pseudo intellectual stuff because Kanye's a moron.
He's not an intellectual at all.
No, I mean, I think that he's kind of an idiot savant. I think he's a good artist, but I think that he is not by any means somebody that should have a public opinion about most anything. But even with this thing, I think it's important, and I'll explain why in a minute. But so then instantly, and you can quote it because you look at my Twitter. I liked it the day that he did it was when he said that I like the way Candace Owens thinks, and I that moment knew who Candace Owens was, and I don't agree with her on a lot of shit. Like, she's got some stuff about trans people that's gross, and I think it's just because she's a new conservative, and kind of the same thing when people come out of the closet and are super gay instantly. I think that she's
super conservative because she just came out.
Exactly. She thinks that, and I think the weird thing about the right at the moment, and this is what I was saying to you, is that it's so fractured. There are portions of the right that are more willing to listen to oppositional views and let you in, and the left is so
really
uninterested.
Far, yeah.
Like, and so even him, so Kanye is not saying that I voted for Trump. In fact, in a lot of the Trump tweets, he said I don't agree with everything he says.
He actually says that.
I'm just trying to bring us together and all this kind of stuff. So what's made this so interesting, and there's a lot of conservatives like Ben Shapiro said, you know, I don't really think that we should be listening to Kanye. He's a moron, and I agree. But here's what's interesting. Trump is arguably the most famous person on the planet right now, and I'm not even.
Well, you were saying politically, right?
I mean, politically, but I think in general, which is the first time this has ever happened with a president. I think that globally, and this is just like such a weird phenomenon. And also, he uses Twitter, meaning that he just has diarrhea of the mind constantly.
Yeah.
And now Kanye and his wife who defended him for these tweets, are arguably the most famous people culturally on the planet. So now you have this idea of where I think that the left has gotten, they retch at any idea that, and I think we've talked about it on previous podcasts, where I think that a lot of this hyperactivism with gay stuff, I'll use our thing for example, is so intense and kind of, well, if you're not right, you're wrong kind of thing. If you're not on our side, you're wrong. That it's alienating people. It's pushing them away. Like, they're like, dude, this is like 56 genders. Like, what the fuck are you talking about? I don't really know what. Like, what? And then
it's so bizarre to people, to anybody who's even remotely on the outside of that. So it does push them away.
Yeah. And so this is so interesting because now we have these cultural behemoths, and we have now this cultural and political behemoth combining as one to create this weird kind of bizarro world Voltron.
Ooh,
which is
I love that reference.
Yeah.
Voltron is one of my favorite cartoons at the moment. I need to finish watching the original one.
It's quite a bit different.
Yeah.
But this is such an interesting cultural flashpoint for me.
It's crazy. I think actually, it could be a nice turning point. I mean, you were saying that it could bring people together actually, Because there are so many people who are liberal and support liberal and support Kanye.
Yeah.
And Kanye tweeting about Trump in a way that's, I don't totally agree with him, but he's got dragon energy. It's sort of like, have you ever seen those Danimals commercials? I don't know why I just thought of this, where there's like 2 flavors in one cup, and like Cole Sprouse is like mixing it. Did you ever
No,
see
I've never
those?
seen this. No.
Maybe I'm a little young.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I just see I see like this like yellow mixture and this pink mixture,
Yeah.
and Cole Sprouse is like the
That's
god
gonna be your next.
who's
That's
stirring.
gonna be your next viral meme. What I think is so interesting about it is that the left has gotten so intense, and I'll call it the neo-left, like kind of like neocons were in the 90s.
It is the neo-left.
It's the neo-left, and like where this thing where, for instance, even me kind of pushing back on some of the gender stuff, I'm like out of the club. Like I can't even.
Yeah.
It's pushed me actually kind of further right because I can't. They don't want to talk to me anymore. They don't want to have a discussion about it. And it's this thing in which there is no science to back a lot of this stuff, but it kind of comes out of the intelligentsia of college campuses. And so, but they're taking it as its fact. And even though it may be, I almost don't find it to be terribly helpful. And one of the biggest arguments for me in terms of gay stuff is if gender is this kind of social construct, meaning that like, your parents can, or like the societal pressure can influence your gender, it fucks up our argument that you're born gay. Which I think is really, really, really important packaging because it's simple, it's neat, it's clean, and it's probably true.
Probably, yeah.
And so, and I don't even think that the problem is that when I talk like that, I don't even think that they're wrong. I mean, I think that whatever
we just don't know who's right. There's no way to stand your ground on something like that if you don't actually know the truth.
Exactly, and it's kind of it's the I mean, to talk about something even more controversial, it's very similar to how I talk to you about abortion, where I'm pro-choice, but not because I believe that 3 months is the appropriate time to kill a baby. Like, I don't want to kill a baby. I think that the argument that I know when life starts, like whether it be conception or at 3 months, is the most arrogant fucking thing on the planet.
There's no way you can actually, there's no way you can determine that.
Like, Jordan, am determining when something's a life. Like, I mean,
exactly.
And then the people who are saying that it's right when the sperm touches the egg, and I'm like, that could be right. I mean, there's no way.
Yeah,
like,
there's no way to really know. We don't have the technology or the science to know it yet.
Exactly. Well, I mean,
and also it's all ethical
we do.
And moral.
It's ethics, and it's that kind of thing of where, like, to me, it's trying to have a moral consistency because someone who's in a persistent vegetative state, like myself, let's say I got in a car accident and was brain dead, I'd want you to pull the plug. Like, I do not want to be alive. That is not a quality of life. Similarly to a fetus that's going to be, or a child that's in a family that can't afford to take care of it, that would not be a very high quality of life, in my opinion. Or also, if you knew they're going to be born with some kind of serious disease that's going to make them suffer. My attitude, and I'm not saying this is correct morally, this is a logistical issue for me, is I'd rather you just don't have that kid and try to have a more viable, healthy kid. But I also understand how the other side would see that as morally reprehensible. And I think
absolutely,
I think they're right, but I just don't really value human life the same way. I see it differently.
Yeah, and that's okay. I think having that opinion somewhere on the spectrum of pro-choice and pro-life, that's fine. I mean, you're leaning a little more towards. I mean, you are pro-choice, but
totally.
It's, I guess, explaining yourself further kind of it does distance you from. Like the right, and of course also a little bit the left, because for the left, the major like reason for being pro-choice is like women's rights,
which is weird to me.
It is a little bizarre. I think it's a nice mixture of like the two, and also like if like the woman thinks that like you were saying, like it's not a good quality of life for their baby, like great, their choice. It's a mix of that for me.
Well, that's the crazy. Like the crazy part about it is how the argument has now become about, a bunch of white-haired men dictating what women can do to their bodies, and I'm like, well, how about all you ladies get together and see how quickly you make a baby with just all of you guys? It's like it's not like we're not 50% of the equation here. It's like, and we don't get to say anything about it.
I think they have the technology to do it now. They take it from your bone marrow, right?
I think that's how it works. Yeah.
Yeah. I think you could. That's how lesbian women have children now. They just.
Anyway,